and let us begin with prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. O living God, your almighty power is made known chiefly in showing mercy and pity. Grant us the fullness of your grace to lay hold of your promises and live forever in your presence. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Okay, we are in Genesis chapter 42, and I apologize ahead of time. This is a little section here where it was very hard to find art, or art that I would want to, there's a couple of little sketches and drawings and stuff, but nothing for a kind of high-end study here. So I was trying to find at least good illustrations or paintings. There are some more coming up with that restoration where Joseph finally reveals himself. But we are just in the throes of the brothers of Joseph coming down to Egypt because of the famine here in a couple of years into the famine. They have not seen their brother Joseph for over 20 years. And thinking of the kind of the high, this is really marvelously crafted by the Holy Spirit, and Moses, the human author. There's parts of this, as I was going through this, I was amazed at how many little details of the story I've kind of glossed over. And it's really quite marvelous. There's a lot of nuance here, and the drama, the human drama, as it's unfolding with Joseph now, who knows that these are his brothers, but his brothers who do not know that it is Joseph. And we talked about how Joseph knows and even thinks back upon the dream that God gave to him, that Joseph preached, that was one of the reasons for his brothers to hate him. And now here he sees that fulfilled, and we've begun a bit of the narrative here about Joseph testing his brothers. And lest we think this is just kind of, being mean or spiteful, we'll try to go back repeatedly over the fact that this is Joseph trying to, he is testing his brothers, and this is God's testing of these men. Are they repentant? The things that they have done, the kind of men that they had become as God's people, and yet God, out of love, the Lord disciplines those whom He loves. A father rightly disciplines, and the sense, the impetus behind the word discipline, or disciple, is one who's being taught and one who is learning. I could not help it. As a kid growing up, we when we had our little boxer dog named Bumper that my aunt and uncle had picked up in Chicago, and they already had a boxer, and so they gave us this boxer. We loved Bumper very much. And as a kid, I was just 8 or 9 years old probably, and I knew that Bumper would go on discipline sometimes, and that never sounded very good. And he would have to sit, and then you'd have your hand kind of waving in front of his snout there. He was on discipline. So to me, discipline didn't sound like such a great thing. Although the idea, looking back, I was thinking, and I must say Bumper was not a very disciplined dog, even no matter how much we worked with him. But that idea of discipline, which sounds unpleasant, especially when you might be the one experiencing it, and yet this is, see behind this interplay of law and gospel. Joseph is going to kill his brothers as we see their fear and their terror over the things that happen. He means no harm to them. In fact, the law that is being preached, and I'm using my air quotes here, is to the end that he might determine, are they repentant? And of course, they're going to be restored and forgiven in a quite marvelous way. That's coming. The gospel is coming. Not yet. But what is the nature of these men? Joseph knows about them and is trying to, in this testing, to see what kind of men they have become. Are they still hating? I mean, the whole question of, do you have a brother, Benjamin? Oh yeah, he's back home with our father. Oh, is your father, around? Yeah, the brothers keep on offering up this information, not realizing that Joseph is taking all of this in, and that all of this intelligence gathering. But how is it with Benjamin? Is Benjamin being treated the way you treated this other brother you mentioned, who is no more? There's a bit behind this. And do you still lie to your father about, do you bring a bloody ornamented robe to your father and say, oh, Dad, I don't know. Do you think maybe Joseph is no more? It looks like he was attacked by wild animals. So there is this, this is discipline from the Lord, testing. It is Joseph testing. And it is to do what the law is to do, which is to bring to repentance and trust in God's mercy. And actually, we're going to see quite a bit of that with such marvelous detail here. We kind of stopped in the middle of chapter 42. This was, Joseph is there with the brothers. The brothers bow down just to completely fulfill this the dream that God had given Joseph to preach, that his the sheaves of wheat are going to be bowing down. And he comes out hard as he kind of interrogates them. He leads with the fact that accuses them several times of being what? Spies. You are spies come into the land to see our weakness, our vulnerabilities, our nakedness. And as we talked last time, he throws them all in the husgau, and then for 3 days, and then comes up with his plan B that says, "I'm going to keep one of you here for your earnest, as a little bit of insurance." And here again, you see the tenderness of Joseph for his family, for his brothers who've done what they've done to him, because it's the midst of a famine. People are starving back home. The rest of you are gonna go back up, but when you come back, because you'll need more food, but then you'll bring this youngest brother. There's a great interest in this youngest brother, and you wonder how much, as we hear the brothers tell Jacob about this and report to their father what happened, and even Jacob lamenting, saying, "Why are you telling this man all of our family business, or at least these details about your brother? If you hadn't said anything about your brother, he wouldn't be asking to have Benjamin go back with you. I will not give up Benjamin." And we'll see that it's a marvelous drama. We see it as the truth of the narrative and God's word, and showing him keeping his promise and saving his people and bringing the Messiah, because you got to eat to get to the next generation and generation after that and the generation after that. But so Joseph has really pricked the conscience here. They're showing some remorse, and even Joseph, as he, we see the hints of emotion there, and we'll see some more today as he has to kind of turn away or even leave the room, or he weeps. I mean, the high drama of this. I mean, if you had not seen your brothers, even if you had a terrible relationship with them, if you had not seen them for 20 years, I mean, if I don't see my kids for 4 months, it's like, oh, it's great to see you, and it's wonderful to, we'll sit down and have a meal. There's a meal coming in a little bit at Joseph's house. But think, Joseph, he's got the catbird seat because he knows who they are. But it's been 20 years. Think of knowing what they had done to him, and yet he doesn't immediately lash out. That's not his intention. But it is to test and to chasten. And so now the brothers, and he can overhear them. Remember, there's an interpreter in the room, and little do they know, of course, that the man is Joseph, and little do they know that the man knows their language because he's their brother. And they begin to reflect, thinking, this terrible thing is happening to us because, my gosh, we sold our brother. Verse, here we're at, verse 20, we're guilty. That's a good confession so far. They're on the right track here. Concerning our brother, we saw his distress. He was begging us. He's down in the cistern while we're off, counting our coins or making our evil plans. And they say, this is why this distress has come upon us. And then even Reuben, this is where we ended last week, where Reuben, and what are the good parts of Reuben? Why is Reuben, on the list of brothers, why does Reuben rate a little bit higher in virtue?
He's talking about killing him.
Yeah, I mean, back in a couple chapters ago, he tried to save Joseph. He wasn't very bold in it, but he intended to, come back and free Joseph later on. And here Reuben, and in at the end of verse 22, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen, so now there comes a reckoning for his blood. That's a pretty thick phrase. Does anybody have a different translation there? A reckoning, right at the very end, the last phrase of verse 22.
Therefore, behold, also his blood is required.
Yeah, I mean, this is, that's pretty heavy language. A reckoning for his blood. It kind of sounds like Reuben thinks Joseph must be dead. It doesn't absolutely demand that, but there had to be, from all the times when Jacob said, hey, go down to Egypt, and that kind of rings around in their minds, and their sensitized consciences, like, oh, Egypt, I remember selling a brother. There was the Ishmaelites, they were heading out that direction. Gee, I wonder if he's around still. But he says, there comes a reckoning for his blood, where even, Reuben is going to take possession of that. He's part of the sin. And the sin is, as Jesus says, if you hate your brother, what have you done?
You're already a murderer.
You have murdered him. And so really it's although it's on the spectrum of this, terrible mistreatment of their brother Joseph, I mean, they sold their brother, but are they, in that sense, in the sense of the fifth commandment, the way our Lord explains it, have they murdered their brother?
Yeah, in what sense?
Yeah, I mean, they hurt him, they harmed him, they didn't take his life, as far as they know. Maybe they kind of salve their conscience that way. Yeah, Davis.
I was just going to point out that with a sentence like that, it's like they're, they know that they are, in fact, under a condemnation of the law, that's in their conscience, We can't be talking Mosaic here, of course, but they know their guilt, and it's like saying that this is something we are absolutely going to have to account for, but I think in his own head that there really isn't a way for that accounting to happen, outside of, kind for kind.
Well, and as we'll hear their own comments about this, as to they're saying because we did that, and this is old sin. I mean, this reminds you of old sin, and this is what Satan loves to do with old sin, to at least plant in your mind again. That's not covered by God's grace. All the other stuff, even the terrible stuff you did, but the one that bothers you the most in your conscience. Boy, Lutherans are always very centered upon the conscience. I mean, you could say the Reformation kind of historically stumbles out of the truth of the human conscience needing to know how God is disposed towards it, because I sin daily and much, and how could God be merciful to someone like me? And the gospel says God is merciful to one like you, to take sin. And so this is 20 plus year old sin, and it's beginning to nag, and if you and I have this same situation in terms of old sin bubbling up, we can take heed here. And there can be, again, I've said more than just last week, between Satan's temptations for you to doubt God's mercy, because that's what his desire is, to pull us away from the promise, to chop faith off against the object of our faith, which is Christ Jesus, or the Lord, testing us or giving us a trial. God tempts no one. Satan tempts, and like I said, And as I consider for myself, sometimes it's hard to know the difference. Is this, what I'm going through right now, is this a temptation from the devil? Or is God testing me? And it's not always as simple as you might think. You're thinking, oh, the devil is doing this. I don't know. Maybe he is. He certainly does evil. And yet even when he does evil, and when he means something for your harm, what can God do with the thing that Satan means for your harm to work? And which Joseph says as much rather famously later on. He said, you meant this for evil. You were doing a demonic thing. You meant it for evil. God worked it for good.
Well, that was kind of laying the table for the book of Job. Satan, said, yeah, you protect this guy. God more or less allowed Satan to test him, up to a certain limit.
And still guarded him. Well, let's take.
Purposes, God allowed it.
Let's. Could someone read verses 23 through 25 then? And we're kind of picking up right after Joseph is eavesdropping on them, and I'm going to go ahead. Could somebody read verses 23 through 25? I'm going to close the door here.
They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept, and he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to replace every man's money in his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them.
Okay, so they Joseph is listening. This is another little aspect of kind of a picture of God, where God is present in it. Here Joseph he's there in the room. He's listening. He doesn't need an interpreter. He knows their language. He is listening to them speak. He is listening to the turmoil in their hearts as they bat this thing around and begin to think of, we did a terrible thing to our brother. That's why this is happening to us. They are feeling guilt, maybe not for the right reasons, maybe feeling guilt because, wow, now I'm experiencing a bad thing. Karma, something like that, rather than, boy, that was our brother and we sinned against him. We hurt and harmed our nearest neighbor, our own blood, or related blood. So Joseph there, he's there, but he hides himself, right? He will reveal himself, just as God, hides himself. Sometimes right there always in the flesh and blood of the Son of God. There he is in the midst of the world, for the world. There he hides himself even upon the cross, because there is your God who is so loving the world that the Father has given this Son as the sacrifice, the Lamb who is slaughtered. Real blood, real death. And he's right there before the eyes of the world. And yet it's hidden. There's still kind of a veil there until God reveals himself or unhides himself, or as we'll see it kind of through the person of Joseph, where he'll finally reveal himself and say, I am your brother, Joseph. And do not worry, I forgive you. Which is not simply Joseph's forgiveness, it is God's mercy for the things that they have done. But this picture of Joseph, like I said, he knows who they are, they don't know who he is. And even the simple phrase, he turned away from them and wept. That's not just a little ornamental way of speaking. He is so overcome by emotion that apparently this could involve him like leaving the room and he returned to them. He has to compose himself. And he's still coming down kind of as the harsh guy. He's coming to them speaking rather roughly. Because, and then he takes Simeon. And you wonder how this, he had in his mind, why do you think, here's a little bit of conjecture, but it doesn't say he just took one of the brothers. It says he took Simeon, which means he didn't take one of the other brothers. Why do you think he took Simeon?
I
think it's because Simeon could have been perhaps one of the more violent brothers. He was one along with Levi that attacked Shechem.
Yeah, exactly.
And my thinking is, it might have been his idea, along maybe with some others, that to kill Joseph.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right there, because we know back, we didn't specifically, I think I made mention of it a couple of weeks ago, but that was, Simeon at the rape of Dinah, their sister, and then they make this arrangement like, oh, hey, let's, all move in together and share land and stuff like that, and then you guys got to get circumcised, that's the rules, that's the family rules, and then while these guys, the men of Shechem, are recovering from the cut of circumcision, Simeon and Levi go in and kill all the males. I mean, this absolutely violent bent. I mean, there's no way, there's no old art pictures of that. I don't know who says, I'm gonna paint the picture of Simeon and Levi.
And also, when Jacob blesses his sons near the end of his life, Simeon did not get a very good blessing.
Yeah,
compared to some of the others.
and despite the fact, because Reuben is the oldest, Reuben is not kept. Because there was again, the weakness of Reuben, he tries to save Joseph. Let's put him down here. I'll come back later and I'll relieve him. But the idea of the firstborn, or who will get the promise? Who will? You're talking about the blessings that Jacob gives at the end, where Simeon and some of the others don't fare all that well, where a reference is made to their violent past, and it's going to end up being, well, who gets the messianic promise?
Judah.
It's Judah, of course, and even here we see where Judah was one who said, let's not kill him, let's sell him. On the gradation of, how are the brothers ranked here? Judah's not much better, although later on, and this was kind of the fun part of reading much more closely than I have ever done in my life, where you see I had forgotten about how Judah figures so prominently, and how he speaks to Jacob and says, as we'll find, and when he says, we got to go back for more food, I put all the blame on me. I will, let it rest upon me. Let Benjamin go with me, and I will, offer myself up. And that's this transaction that takes place. In that sense, Judah becomes also kind of a Christ-like figure, since he is willing to take all the blame. Father, Jacob, Israel, I will go with him. I will guarantee his safety. He will thrive even if something else happens to me. But we got to go down and get food. And the man said, you got to bring your younger brother. And so we got to do it. We'll come into that, because this is all kind of woven together in a very, very marvelous way. But Simeon is the one who then becomes the hostage. And even, it was a bit amusing to me, as we'll come upon it later in chapter 43, when Jacob is talking about, I've lost my one son, Joseph, as he assumes he has, and I'm sending my son Benjamin down, and he's probably going to have something terrible happen to him too, and that other one, he doesn't even mention Simeon's name, but Simeon's going to be a hostage here now for this whole time. So he's the one that's being held in the prison. So you see Joseph's care for them. The bags are filled with grain. The money that is paid, because that was the transaction. We come with our money, we pay Egypt our money, they give us grain, we don't die. And of course, Joseph now is putting all that money back into their bags, into their sacks. And I wish I had a better imagination as to how, it's one thing to just kind of speak what we have with the narrative, but to think of what this looks like. How many donkeys, how many animals is this? How many does each son have? How many months of grain do they need, and how much is that? They've got they're doing some math there. Issachar is thinking, well, I've got this, so I'll need 30 bags. How many bags fit on a donkey? This is a lot of logistics to the trip here. I had asked last week, and Mark Steiner was doing some of the math on one of his maps, but I remember we had this old one here. If if Jacob and the brothers, Jacob and his sons are up here in Canaan, and they're wherever coming down into Egypt here, here's 100 miles. So there's 100 miles there. And it's a long trip. Has anyone here ever walked maybe 210, 220 miles? Can you imagine saying, get up tomorrow, start walking home, and we're going to be walking, it's going to be 220 miles. How much could you travel in a day in those days, think, if you're doing it with a bunch of pack animals?
10 miles maybe.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad guess. I mean, maybe if you could do more, you could probably walk by yourself, or an army could march, I don't know, maybe 20 miles if you're pushing, but that's exhausting stuff. But again, just thinking of these things, the literal, what it would actually look like with all the braying donkeys and sweating men and loading the camels back and forth, that if it's 210 miles, and so that's a 3-week trip. And if you have some problems in between, maybe it's another week in there. Who knows how they probably weren't quite as worried about, it's always supply train issues, you know? There's the application. Everything is supply train issues. But, getting from point A to point B isn't just, and they went home. But, now it takes this journey with these pack animals. And as this unfolds, and I had forgotten this, because could someone read verses 26 through 28?
Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder and lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of the sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." As their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?"
So just with that text, what is the emotional reaction? Just using the words, whether from the ESV, what is the emotional reaction to this find of just one of them, right? This is just one of them opening a sack at the lodging place. So wherever, maybe they did their 10, 15 miles that day. I don't know that there were any Howard Johnsons. There are no more Howard Johnsons. I believe the last one closed here. But they're setting up, their little shelter there on the way on this trade path, getting donkey food. The animals, not only do you pack all the stuff that you're going to use for when you're back home, but you're also eating on the way. Obviously less for the trip, but still, however many animals this is, carrying how many bags this is, have to eat a certain amount. I guess, I don't know if they feed just once a day at the end of the day. I don't know. I'm not good on animal husbandry. But the fact that this is, just one of them, quite naturally finds and, opens a sack to feed a donkey, at least this one, and he sees the money. And so what is the emotional, in terms of how the text describes him now, and as he tells the brothers, what are they feeling? Let's talk about our feelings. What are they feeling?
They're scared and they're trembling.
Yeah, you hearts fail, if you ever had that. Trembling, if you've ever had that. And then this notion that it is somehow deserved by their previous actions. What is this that God has done to us? A judgment is being carried out. They've done bad things, and now another bad thing is happening to them. Because, to find money in your sack, what do you think they're thinking? The money shouldn't be in the sack, right? The money is what they paid for it. So you see money in the sack, what might you think of that?
Oops, who's the thief? Who stole?
Well, somebody could have stolen and hide that back in there. Behind this also might be the fact that, this man who has been talking to us and gave us who kept on calling us spies, is this some sort of entrapment that an Egyptian frame-up? I don't know if there's a colloquial way
Call them thieves.
of saying that. Yeah, from in their mind, they're thinking he gets to, they really didn't steal. I mean, here they are guiltless on this account, but all they can think of is as they are now grow faint, hearts grow faint, and they tremble, and they're afraid, and they've got money in their sack that they thought they paid to get the grain. Are we being set up? Now he can call us. He called us spies numerous times. He didn't want to seem to let that go, and now this man, if he knows about this, he could call us thieves. So, what is this that God has done to us? Is the question that they have. All these storage sacks that haven't been opened yet. This is just one guy. So let's pick up the next section here, verses 29 through 34. Could someone read that little section, please?
When they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us, and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to him, 'We are honest men. We have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan.' Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, 'By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. And I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land.'"
Okay, thank you, Judith. So they finally get home. So how many piles of money have been found at this point?
Just one.
Just one. I mean, in fact, you can peek ahead at verse 35 when they empty their sacks, going, "Oh no!" So it was bad before. Now it's really bad. But they get home to Jacob, their father. So however long 3 weeks have passed, perhaps maybe a little bit more. Their long trip back home with food, and is their report to Jacob honest and genuine?
For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, for guys who have made up and told lies to their father before. I mean, we have the example of the coat of many colors being dipped in goat's blood for Jacob to draw his own conclusions that Jacob must have been devoured by wild animals. Here, their old evasion or excuse making or out and out lying is gone. And in fact, the kind of this is very typical of Hebrew prose as well, where there's kind of where folks probably were not reading this, but the ones who could read would be or teach would be speaking this, and there's repetition in it, and so we're kind of reminded of the details again. The man, the Lord of the land, the vice pharaoh. Asked us, where we were from. He accused us of being spies. We said we're honest men. We're not spies. We're 12 brothers. One is no more. That kind of marvelously vague. Joseph is saying. Joseph could probably have heard that and said, "Oh, I know about that guy. I know what happened to him. We'll get back to that guy." The youngest is with the father. All this information that they're kind of spilling out. Without their lawyer present, they are giving all sorts of information, which Jacob later on is going to say, "Why do you guys give so much information to this man?" But still, you've got a famine in your home, so take this. But you're going to come back, and this is what you will do. This great interest in the youngest brother. Bring your youngest brother to me. And they don't know what that means. I mean, what does Joseph want to do with Benjamin? He doesn't want to harm him, right?
He wants to see him.
He wants to see him. It's his brother of the same mother. He wants to see how now when I was the favorite son and the least favorite brother, look what happened to me. Have they changed how they treat ones who they are angry at, whom they hate? Do they hate my brother? Do they still lie to my father? And so, the promise of that man, the Lord of the land, as they reported to their father, was saying, you bring Joseph, or excuse me, you bring your brother, your youngest brother, Benjamin, and that last phrase, I will deliver your brother to you. Who's he speaking about there? Simeon, presumably. So maybe they're thinking, he's going to still keep one. Maybe he'll make Benjamin a slave in Egypt. So, I mean, there's, you can understand the terror, the fear that Jacob is going to encounter. Although the man from the Lord of the land, the vice Pharaoh of Egypt, who calls us all spies, says, if you do this, you'll get to travel freely. You shall trade in the land. So there's still kind of an openness there. Let's read verses 35 through the end of the chapter here.
As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Then Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol.
Okay. So before it was just one brother on the way, at the lodging, whenever that time was. And so they're still using other sacks to provide for the donkeys on the way. So it's not till they get home. I mean, however this is set up, there's still the other, 9 bundles of money in sacks. I don't know if that's buried under a big pile of stuff, but they don't discover that until they get home. And even after they reported to their father Jacob about what's going on, like, this man calls us spies and wants us to bring Benjamin back there. And then their terror is heightened. This just gets worse and worse as now every single one of the brothers can, as they go through and move, I mean, you wonder if this was, one more brother found his, and then they all get this terror-stricken look on their face, and they start looking at their bundle of grain bags, and they start cutting the stuff open, and then they keep on finding. Or it was like over the next couple of weeks, they they finally realize all of our money that we paid for the grain has been returned to us. The intrigue here, but the absolute fear, and all kind of swirling around this kind of mysterious man, Joseph, and his desire, his demand, his condition that you are going to come back to Egypt and you're going to bring your youngest brother. And of course Jacob is horrified. And what do you think of this? They and their father saw the bundles of money. They're afraid. And then verse 36 there, Jacob says this. What do you think might be behind his saying this to them? He says, who's he speaking to? His sons. You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Do you think, it doesn't explicitly say, but do you think that their father Jacob had his own ideas about what had happened to Joseph? I mean, does he suspect that they had something to do with it? I mean, he knows the nature of his boys, and was wise enough to tell Joseph to, ixnay on the dream days, that, and even the way he frames this, Joseph is no more, because to Jacob's mind, he is dead.
Maybe he just thinks they're negligent in the care of their brother, not necessarily.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah. And yet, the question I was asking is, how much does the father suspect if he knows his boys? Because he says, you bereaved me of my children.
Well, he's upset with them.
And
so-
because slowly, one by one, he's got, there was a time when he had no children. And he's the one who was seeking a wife, and the one who would bear the promise of the Messiah. And now he has many children. And now here he sees them as though they're slowly getting picked off one by one. Joseph is no more. Simeon is no more. How do you think Simeon feels about that? Simeon's down in Egypt saying, "Wait a second, I'm still here, Dad." And now Benjamin is in Jacob's eyes, on the chopping block.
Well, he thinks they're negligent in discussing how there's a younger brother to begin with.
Yeah, well, and
It's
this,
like, how naive are you boys?
and he says, where this is going to, that's actually going to come up more in chapter 43, where he's saying, why on earth are you telling this man, when you were down in Egypt, why are you offering so much information? I guess sometimes it's better to be, in Jacob's mind, it's better to be a little more closed-mouthed. If you don't have to say certain things, don't say certain things as a practical matter, just to make conversation. And then Reuben. So Reuben reappears, another one of the sons, and he's the oldest son. And what do you think of his suggestion? Do you think Jacob finds this one comforting?
That he could kill 2 of his sons if he didn't bring Benjamin back.
I mean, now think of that in true life.
Jacob's grandsons.
Yeah. So what do you think the grandfather thinks of his son's desire or his son's offer? Hey, I'll have two of my sons put to death. I mean, it's kind of, maybe Reuben is trying to help, I guess, but it's such a crudely offered and ham-handed way of, what comfort is Jacob going to have rather than losing his one son, another son, Benjamin?
That would almost be insulting.
Yeah, it's just a strange, the detail has to be true because it's just so, on account of it, it's God's word, but it's such a strange, almost delirious sort of desperate offer. Reuben says, kill my 2 sons if I don't bring them back to you. I'll take Benjamin down there and I'll get him back here, but if I don't, you can kill 2 of my boys.
They're not sounding more wise with these things to say.
This is, so Reuben makes this kind of desperate promise. And Jacob answers, and this is where things are settled. It kind of goes even into the next chapter where it's almost, time is passing, grain is being eaten, the pile of grain is going down, more grain will be needed shortly, and you're going to have to face this situation again, and the question of, does Benjamin go down? Because the man has said, we're not even going to talk if you come down again for grain again in the famine again without bringing your brother. And so, Jacob's lament here, my son, that is Benjamin, is not going with you because his brother is dead. He does certainly speak of Joseph, as far as he knows, is dead. And boy, this is, he's the only one left. You wonder how the brothers hear that, because they're left. But Jacob seems to, again, he's got his favorites, it appears, and yet how are they going to respond to this? But here's Jacob's cry that, if something happens to him, you're going to bring my gray hairs with sorrow, bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. And remember when he thought that, when he presumed that Joseph was dead, how it said he mourned, I'm looking for this.
He would not be comforted.
Yeah, he would, where was that?
That's when he finds out that Joseph was dead. He just refused to be comforted.
That, he's absolutely heartbroken that he has lost his son. So again, the dynamics of a real rough family situation with all these grown men and the need to live and not die, because that's also behind this, as we don't get to live without food. So the grain is an important part of this, and that daily bread has been supplied for a moment, and rather generously, because we didn't even pay for it. All the money has been returned in the bags of grain. So more uncertainty there. Let's start here with chapter 43. I'll read this one. We'll read that first big chunk, verses 1 through 10. And remember, for however long has passed, and what do we say? Maybe it was 3 weeks at least, maybe, to go from so 3 weeks back up here, and if you make another trip, it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If you plan to have a little bit of weather problem, or donkey has a hoof problem. I don't know what kind of things that they would.
Heat alone would be enough to.
I would imagine there's all sorts of things we could barely consider that would make traveling
Bandits.
with however many donkeys they got, or animals dying on the way. It is a time of famine, and when you bring them back, you have to plan to have enough grain or food for the animals to eat to get back down there. So there's all sorts of planning, and if then you're sharing, of course, your food with the animals, because you need the animals alive to bring grain back up however many times. So a couple of when it mentions here that Judah is going to say, hey, we got to act now. We could have had opportunity to return twice, meaning going down there once, come back again, another 2 months maybe, and then go back and then come back again, another 2 months. So you're talking time is passing. It's not years and years, but it's months and months. So let me read this. Genesis chapter 43. And remember, where is Simeon in all this? He's still in the Huskow there. Now the famine was severe, so it's still severe, and that's been repeated a number of times. Severe in the land. And when they had eaten the grain that they had brought from Egypt on trip number 1, their father said to them, "Go again, buy us a little food." He doesn't say, "I've been thinking about this, and Benjamin can go down with you." All he's thinking about is the most obvious need for food. You must go again, just like it was the previous chapter. There's food in Egypt. Go and get it. Why are you sitting around here looking at each other? Go get the food. But Judah, now here Judah is reintroduced. Judah said to him, "The man," and this is referring to Joseph, the man in Egypt, "solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" So he tells his dad, reminds his dad of the hard fact that, there's no going down to get more grain unless Benjamin goes. That's the deal. That's the only way it's happening. We're not going down without Benjamin. Verse 4, "If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. In fact, we'll eventually just starve and die here. For the man said to us, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" Now, verse 6. What's interesting about verse 6 in light of the names that have been used up until now? It says, Israel said. Who's Israel? It's the name that he is given by God, the striver, when he wrestles with the Malach Yahweh, the angel of the Lord. And so, would it have been right to say Jacob here? Jacob said. He could have said that, but it doesn't say that. It says Israel said. And then let's look at what he said first, and then we'll contemplate why we've changed his name here in the middle of this narrative. Israel said, "Why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, 'Is your father still alive? Do you have another brother?' What we told him was in answer to those questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'?" So the fact that it's Jacob who says this, but he's given his other name. What is the significance of the name Israel? it's a name given by the Lord. And when the name gives you, when the Lord gives you another name, that's a rather significant thing. And it was a rather significant thing in the life of Jacob in Israel when he wrestles the angel and his hip is thrown out and stuff. But, further confirming the promise that, through Abraham and Isaac and now you, Jacob, let me say again that, through you, the promise given to your fathers is the one that is for you. That all nations shall be saved through you. Again, the Lord works with what he deals with what he has to deal with, which is folks like us. Not because you are the smartest or the brightest or the most faithful or the most virtuous, but because in his mercy, he makes his promise to you. This is about God's grace. And so this is kind of like the fact that Isaiah is, the name Israel is used here is because it's, speaking of this man, the patriarch, to use a more lofty title here, as, this is God's chosen. This is God's chosen man and the family, his offspring, who are not going to die of starvation. They're going to live. They're going to eat. Jacob, Israel's child, in fact, Judah, most specifically, is going to be the one as we see the covenant promises, the blessings given to the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel later on, the promise of the Messiah is going to very clearly go to Judah. And now the Lord, again, that promise gets extended. So this is, Israel is the name of, the one who is the forefather of the Messiah. And so it might seem like a kind of a subtle thing, especially when we've already talked about him today as being Jacob. Jacob said this, Jacob said that. But the fact here that Israel says, why did you treat me so badly? Why do you guys, not know when to shut your mouths? Why did you offer up to this man all this information? Well, he kept on asking very specific and pointed questions. In retrospect, he really zeroed in on us. He's asking about, hey, anybody else in the family? You got a younger brother? What about him? Is your father still alive? You say you're all sons of the same father. You're all kin here. Fill me in on that. And then, so we'll end with verses 8, 9, and 10. And here's Judah's finest hour here. This is really kind of where Judah does better, so to speak. And we'll see him act very faithfully and even place himself in danger for the sake of his brother, of his family. Judah said to Israel, and there again, Israel his father, so again the name Israel, send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. That's a very big picture. That's, generations are in view here. And marvelous here, verse 9, I will be a pledge of his safety. Judah is taking it upon himself to say that, I will guarantee, I will be the guarantee for him. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back, God forbid. And the expectation, Jacob's expectation is his son Benjamin is not going to come back. His son is going to go the same way as Joseph, who is no more. Simeon, who's kind of almost spoken of as he's toast already. We don't expect to see Simeon anymore. Although Simeon is going to be redeemed here. But, Jacob, as we'll see the blessing in the prayer, we'll look at this next time we meet, his prayer and his blessing upon his sons as he sends them down, it's a prayer of incredible faith, where his prayer to God Almighty is that my sons return. Meaning, I'm going to send Benjamin down. Don't want to. But here's a father who so loves his son and will give up his son, Benjamin. There's lots of nice, God the Father and his son Jesus pictures here, just as Judah is now finally taking the role to say, you will hold me responsible. I will take the blame for whatever happens to Benjamin. Let's finish this up here and we'll put a bow on it. Verse 9, Judah says to his father, I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, living, then let me bear the blame forever. That sounds like a bit of a Jesus for us. Let me bear the blame. If we had not delayed, we would now have returned twice. I love that detail. We could have gone back down for another 3 weeks, come back home another 3 weeks, and then gone back another 3 weeks and come back another 3 weeks. Another couple of months would have passed. If we've eaten the food, we need food. If we don't have food, we die. Father, entrust your son to me. I will bring Benjamin down there. So we'll stop there. This is just the this whole picture of and we're gonna see this developed more, because it is Jacob's faith in which he finally says to his sons, you may take Benjamin. He will lose his son in his mind.
Did you say Judah would he tell them that he was going to be responsible for?
Well, here Judah does, but which is true, but also Jacob is allowing it to happen. So the father, Jacob, is saying, here is my son Benjamin. I mean, he's offering him up from in his mind. He doesn't expect his son Benjamin to return. But Judah now pledges that I will take the blame. I will be responsible. Reuben was kind of ham-handed when he said, hey, if I take him and bad things happen, then you can kill 2 of my sons. But we'll dive back into this starting at verse 11. I'll turn this off and